context. Recall that the Patriots went to see the president last year.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, and this was one of the strong subject. In fact, this was the main thing, the main agenda that they went with, and I think that was very commendable, because the timing, in my view, this enterprise is an enterprise that is very time sensitive, and that's why the Patriots going to see the president last year, that is within the first year of his coming into office, was very, very important. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, the president didn't accede to that recommendation, even though he received them well. And being elders and statesmen, very experienced, they couldn't have just come out from the president's office and said, well, we've met him with our agenda, he did not agree, therefore we're going this other way. They had to give some time.
All right, we're here again. It's another Friday. It's Atlanta Discuss channel. Yes, State of the Nation. Every Friday, that's what we do. Yes, today we're continuing what we've been doing. The Patriots, they organized a conference. They've been on it. Do we need a new constitution? What really is happening? Are we a failed state? Is it failure of leadership? We keep talking about it. There's marginalization. Every single sub-region out of the 6 is complaining of marginalization. You know, that clearly means we have to sit down and discuss somewhere along the line why we finding this hard to do. Yes, we've had conferences in the past, no genuine outcome. The last known one was the one under former President Jonathan, you know, and I mean, if the APC came in, they are still in power. But I do think, and we feel that there has to be a JoJo along the line, you know. Where's the political will to do that? We don't know where it is. And with the way the country is today, we are just playing with fire. I don't have to be diplomatic about it. If we do not sit down, you know, discuss some issues, you know, now we're generating so much money. At the same time, the country is overwhelmingly indebted. You know, you just can't balance it. There's a lot going on. And it's looking to me that it doesn't even matter who is president. The structure will not make anybody succeed. That's why I don't always lay the blame too much on the president, because if the foundation of anything is bad, your chances of success is, you know, it's almost negligible. So that's why we're here. So today we have another very wonderful guest. You know, I always pick my guests carefully. We have Mr. Inuiro Wills. Mr. Wills, welcome to Atlanta Discuss State of the Nation, sir.
Thank you very much, Ade. Yes, the name is Iniuro. Okay. Iniuro Wills.
Inuiro Wills. Okay, that is noted. I apologize for that. Yes, okay. Mr. Wills is a prominent environmental activist. He's from the Niger Delta, clearly. He's been commissioner for environment in Bayelsa. I'm sure a lot of you already know him before I even called his name, you know. So, and he's going to tell us a lot about what's happening in Niger Delta. But we're going to start with that conference, you know. And last week I had Madam Briggs, IQ Briggs, and before then I had Mr. Kentebe. You know, they've all said their own part of it. But I'm going to ask Mr. Wills another question, the same question I asked to my past two guests, rather. So, do you really think we need a new constitution? If yes, why?
Yes, we need a new constitution.
Why?
We need a constitution made by the people of Nigeria. I think that some of these issues, some of the most fundamental issues affecting us are not so complex. It's just that we don't want to confront the truth, even the truth that glares us so visibly in the face, you know. So yes, and the reason is we've never made unto ourselves a constitution. We've just been managing along. The 1999 constitution, and this is a hackneyed point. Everybody has been making it, and it's almost asking to make the point. The 1999 constitution is merely the schedule. By schedule, to break it down to layman's term, it's merely the appendix, the attachment to a decree that was enacted by the last military government. So it's not even a document that stands on its own. It's just the attachment of a decree. Now, what is a constitution? In simple terms, a constitution is an agreement between the various peoples and entities, that's the federating units, the various peoples and entities that come together to form one nation state, so to speak. So the operative word here is agreement. It is an agreement on terms, on how we should relate, how we should govern ourselves. Now, I don't know how many people that have seen an agreement that is signed by only one party. An agreement means that if you and I go into an agreement, we will both sign. If 10 people go into an agreement, 10 people, the 10 representatives will sign. The Constitution of the United States of America, the Declaration of Independence, 1776, these were signed by representatives of the original 13 states of the United States of America. What parades itself as Nigeria's constitution, in other words, what parades itself as Nigeria's fundamental agreement, is signed by one man. And that is General Abdulsalami Abubakar. So it's not an agreement. It's just a decree. But let's concede two things. One is that, however flawed it is, we've just been managing it along. And, usage starts to give some legalism, not legitimacy, but some legal validity or legalistic validity to whatever is being used. Second is that it's been that document, that unilateral document has been so branded. They've done a good job at branding it as a constitution, but it is not a constitution. It's just an imposition. So in simple terms, even in the most, or rather in the least problematic setting, you will still need a constitution.
Absolutely.
Let alone a polity like Nigeria, where you have several ethnic, groups coming together that were existing on their own. These bodies, these polities all had their sovereignties. As recently as the 19th century, they all had their sovereignties. The British came, and long story short, melded them together by force. And so you would expect that at the time of granting independence, it is either you will restore sovereignty to these various pre-colonial entities, or the independence will be based on an agreement that has been reached by representatives of these various polities to say, you know what, even though our experience may not have been perfect, but we see some very good things and prospects about being part of one country called Nigeria. But for it to work, these are the terms. So to conclude on this topic, the Constitution is just like the articles of association of a company. It's important to break it down.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
When lawyers and experts, so-called experts, and please, small caveat, I don't come here as an expert. I come here most importantly as a citizen, an interested citizen, of Nigeria. So when lawyers and experts, talk, we use a lot of jargon. So a constitution is simply the articles of association of a company. It's like that. And the articles of association of a company, let's say there are 3 shareholders. Have you seen articles of association of a company that has 3 shareholders and only 1 shareholder signed?
It's not a void.
It's not. It's, so it's a very simple and straightforward point. But we've been running away from the truth simply because certain groups, by chance or by design, certain narrow groups from independence till now have been inheriting and enjoying the advantages, the unfair advantages that were created for them by the colonial master in order to retain Nigeria in the kind of structure, dysfunctional structure that it is. And also so that those narrow interests will retain the country in the way it is, so that the economic flows, the financial flows, the socio-political and economic relations, even on an international level, will remain the way they were, which is the extractive logic that informed and drove colonialism in the first place. That extractive logic has to be retained. It can take on different forms and guises over time, all right, but it has to remain. And you need locals who will have such advantages that they will feel the incentive to keep the country the way it is.
Oh, wow.
I may not have done a good job at simplifying.
You did it in a completely different way. Your words were different, but it's self-explanatory. But let me ask you this, right? It's clear from what I've heard from my last 2 guests and from what my past guests, a lot of people have been talking constitutional this, constitutional that. Now, economically, we're not looking very stable too. Almost most of our institution of government are not functional. We're talking judiciary, police, health, so many things are not working well. Are this also as a result of the bad foundation laid by that inability for the people to have a people-written constitution? Are they related?
Obviously, they are related. If you said it in your preamble, if the foundation is bad, then no matter how good the materials you use, for the superstructure, however luxurious they are, sooner than later, they'll start to have cracks, yes, and you can patch the cracks now and then. There's a problem with police relations, so let's fix it. What do you guys want? You want state police? Let's give you state police if it comes to that eventually. But there are a million things, a million cracks that will happen, and it's a matter of
like what, sir? Like what? What are the cracks? And also, what are the things you think, if for any reason we sit down and discuss sincerely, where are the areas you also think the amendment should be made so that the country can move forward?
Well, as I said, I don't come as an expert here. I come as a citizen. The overarching principle is, let's get into that process whereby we make a constitution unto ourselves. Now, when we get into that process, then the people, the representatives of the people, the duly elected, duly chosen representatives of the people, whatever their priorities or our priorities are, those are the priorities that will have to be written into the constitution. So just for example, the judiciary. We have a legal system that you wonder sometimes if it's federal or if it's unitary, such that to appoint a state high court judge, federal institutions are involved. The National Judicial Council will have to be involved. It creates a lot of, disruptions, and it imposes all manner of constraints. That's just one. And there could be a million others. You've mentioned police relations already, the state police issue. How about elections? You see what is going on now. The tussle between, it's not even a tussle, it's just power play by the center, to ensure that even local government elections are conducted by them. First of all, because of the fundamentally flawed nature of our so-called constitution, states have not been able, in our current 25 or 26-year experiment in the Fourth Republic, have not been able to have new local government areas. I'm not aware that there's been a single local government area. The Lagos State experience is clear to everyone when the present president was governor. That is a problem. But beyond that, rather on top of that, the center even wants to control elections into local government areas, which should actually be a function of the state institutions. So all over, even boundary delimitation, an issue like boundary delimitation, there is a view, and I'm not sure that many of our countrymen and women would have thought of things this way, but there's a view that the Nigerian state has never been able to satisfactorily resolve any of the pathologies affecting it, any serious pathology affecting our country. We've never been able to resolve it. We create commissions, we throw money at them, we rebrand, the quote unquote solutions, but there's never a proper solution. And I remember this thinking because I mentioned boundary delimitation. That in how many years? 1960 till date, that's 65.
Yeah, 65 years. Yeah.
5 years of independence, we still have not resolved boundary issues between states, between communities in all this time. So they're still there. We're just papering over them. But if we have an authentic constitution-making process, that will be one out of several, I can't say whether 100 or 1,000, but several important things that will be noted so that we can look ourselves eyeball to eyeball and say, look, we have so many boundary issues. How do we resolve them? What should be the processes? What will be the modalities? But right now, we're just pretending. And any example I give, the discussion around any example I give applies to every other issue that has been plaguing Nigeria.
They're all related.
Yeah, they're all related. So on the boundary issue, you have National Boundary Commission, you have Federal Surveyor General's Office, and so on. And you'll be wondering what have they been doing in all these 50 or 60 years that they've existed, But because there are no fundamental understandings, duly thought through, duly negotiated by the various peoples as to the terms and principles that will guide their relations. So we've just been, roughing it through and then pretending that we're dealing with the problems. Ditto for security, ditto for interfaith relations, ditto for our economy, so you still have the feeding bottle approach where everybody has to go to Abuja at the end of the month and come back. Apart from the inefficiencies, apart from the, economic inefficiencies of that, we've not even quantified how that is a major factor driving corruption to the point where corruption is now national. It is settled national culture. It's a Nigerian culture, corruption.
Wow. Wow. So now, the Patriot organized the last conference less than a month ago and all that. What instigated that action? The Patriot has been there for a while. Why that urgent need to organize something now? I mean, why? Are you foreseeing a scenario why the cookie will crumble in the immediate nearest future? Or it's just a ordinary warning, or you just feel that, well, it's about time? I mean, we can go on and on. Why the urgency? Because I watched a lot of the proceedings, and almost more than half of the speakers attach the urgent need for Nigerians to judge up. I think one speaker even said that there was no time, that if we didn't do it, that maybe not in my words, I'm paraphrasing now, that those that make peace impossible make violence inevitable. So I ask you, why the urgent need for the conference organized the Patriot, and how do Patriots, the organizers of that last conference, want to achieve all their aims and objectives? What's the process? Do you have to work with the National Assembly? Do you have an agreement with the president to receive a bill? What's going to happen after that? Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you. They say that what an elder sees sitting down, that you as a young man or young woman may not see standing up. The Patriots is a group of elder statesmen, even though you can see the efforts to be more inclusive lately, bringing fairly younger elements. The urgency, it is better late than never. The way to speak to the urgency, I think, is that the time for doing this was 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So we're well past the best time for doing it. But we're already where we are. So even though we're running late, we might as well do it now rather than wait for another 10 years or 5 years or 20 years. I would like to put it in such simple terms. But let's also bring this within context. Recall that the Patriots went to see the president last year.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, and this was one of the strong subject. In fact, this was the main thing, the main agenda that they went with. And I think that was very commendable, because the timing, in my view, this enterprise is an enterprise that is very time sensitive. And that's why the Patriots going to see the president last year, that is within the first year of his coming into office, was very, very important. Unfortunately, for whatever reasons, the president didn't accede to that recommendation, even though he received them well. And being elders and statesmen, very experienced, they couldn't have just come out from the president's office and said, well, we've met him with our agenda, he did not agree, therefore we're going this other way. They had to give some time. I'm not part of the Patriots, even though I attended the summit, the first day of the summit. The second day I wasn't there, but I joined for part of the time. So that happened. They had to give time. So I'm not speaking for them. They may have other reasons why they waited and they're just doing it now, but they had to give some time. And now they're back again. And the urgency is such that, in fact, it's almost running late within the current electoral cycle. It's almost running late to still be able to have a constitution. It's not too late. It is still possible. It is still feasible. But if the process does not start within the next 3 to 6 months, plus or minus, then it becomes a lot trickier to be able to have such a project or enterprise happen before the 2027 elections. Because normally you should give enough time for representatives to be chosen, then they gather, whether they're gathering virtually or physically, but there should also be enough time for the dialogue, the deliberations to take place. There will be a lot of storming some people will shout and scream. Some people may walk out. There are a lot of challenging issues. Enough time for that process. It's like cooking soup. You can't just put it and then 5 minutes, you take it off. So but right now, we have barely 2 years to the next general elections. And you might agree with me that this is not the kind of enterprise that you start 1 year to the elections.
Absolutely.
Because 1 year from now, in fact, we already know that the 2027 politicking is already going on.
Campaign mode, yeah.
Exactly. So imagine that 1 year from now, we'll be in the heat of that. And that cannot be the time to bring this agenda on. So I think that the patriots, in their wisdom, of course, as human beings, no matter how experienced they are not perfect people, but in their wisdom, are trying to push this at the latest time within this current electoral cycle that they can do that. Now, quickly to process. Process, again, I can't impose, but I believe strongly that a constitution-making process should be driven by people elected, freely chosen by the various discussing groups, whether on ethnic basis or on state basis, because of realities that we cannot run away from, we could decide that, okay, let's not run it along ethnic lines. But we already have a configuration of states. So is it going to be 3 representatives or 10 representatives per state? It won't be an issue of the governors appointing representatives. No, they must be freely elected. So the first step, again, in their wisdom, the patriots, the approach that they've come up with is to draft a bill and take it to go back to the president and present it to him, appealing to him to please look at this and forward it to the National Assembly for consideration. Hopefully that goes through. Is it a perfect approach? Not necessarily, because we are in a human setting. So there will be a few imperfections. Those are some of the, anyone who wants to be, what's the word now? Anyone who wants to be over-idealistic, may just be naive. So if that is taken, fine. That would probably be the best chance at our having a new constitution soon enough. If the president does not accept, because that's a big question, let's hope that will not be the outcome. But if he does not accept, then I imagine that the patriots, again, I'm not speaking for them, but I imagine that they will have to go back in and consult, not only amongst themselves, but amongst all the various people that came to Abuja and even joined online and beyond to say, what next? How do we go about it? The exact mechanics of that, one cannot prophesy. However, in principle, I believe strongly that, as we all know, sovereignty belongs to the people. Even this flawed constitution we're talking about has it there that sovereignty belongs to the people. That means that when the agents of the people who are owners of sovereignty, when they are agents, their agents are government. When the agents do certain things that are fundamentally misaligned to their overall best interests, the people may have to find a way to chart a course for themselves. And I'll give you one example. How the people decide to chart that course can take one or a combination of 1,000 and 1,000,000 different approaches. And my example here is the power vacuum scenario during Yar'Adua's illness. Yes. Even the 1999 Constitution had a simple, straightforward procedure. Vice President has to be the acting president. But you see what went on.
Absolutely.
And you see how the polity was heated.
Unduly.
Clearly, a lot of powerful interests in government, in the National Assembly, at the Villa, were not interested in transition of power to the vice president for him to become acting president. But it was the sound of the people, the agitation, street protests, even elders came out. Leaders like Wole Soyinka, even the president was part of that movement, came out and showed the will of the people in such a way that the National Assembly, led by Senator David Mark at the time, presided over by Senator David Mark at the time, decided to adopt the doctrine of necessity. I think we forget as Nigerians that the National Assembly did not adopt the doctrine of necessity on their own just because they felt it's the right thing to do. Otherwise, they would have done it much earlier. It was because the people of Nigeria decided to express their will in a way that made it clear to the institutions of states that thus far and no more. Imagine if the National Assembly had not taken that approach at the time. Nobody can predict what the people, in the exercise of their sovereignty, what further things they would have done. So, to round up on this, all I'm saying is that if the president does not agree, then the Nigerian people, whether led by the patriots or led by whoever else, will find a way. And that way may be spontaneous. It may be premeditated, whatever, but they will find a way. Whether it will be immediate or everybody will just go back to sleep and postpone it for another 10 years or 2 years, it's a different matter. Yes.
Let me ask you this. Yeah. I mean, 2027 is already around the corner. The politicking has started, and it's looking like North versus South. And I think that's very dangerous for Nigeria. You can see it clearly. The president is building a Southern coalition, but it's also looking like there's a Northern gang up against the incumbent president. Now, based on what we discussed ab initio, do you think this can lead, that election itself? No, I mean, we're not God. We don't have we're not soothsayers. Do you think the outcome of that election, if not properly managed, can be very dangerous for Nigeria?
Well, it's difficult to give an exact answer to this. Yeah. But the answer is already in your question, which is if it's not properly managed, it can be dangerous for the country. But I'm also mindful of the fact that is a phrase, not in exactly those words, but that is a message or a narrative that has been repeated, at the eve of every election.
Exactly.
From 2003 to 2007, each time we're approaching new elections, we say, the next elections, will be do or die, make or break.
Nobody wants to die.
Yes.
We want to do, but we don't want to die.
We don't want to die. I don't want to give in to the doomsday scenarios that have been predicted for Nigeria, even though some of the timelines given may have shifted. In a sense, to a very large extent, Nigeria, there's a lot of dysfunctionality. I'm being careful with my words. A lot of dysfunctionality, and many people would justifiably, including experts, policy analysts and so on, would justifiably say Nigeria is a failed or failing state. But there's one more category, which is collapsed states, which we're certainly not. And I'm hoping that none of those doomsday scenarios will come to pass. But as you said, depending on how things are managed, if they're not managed properly, then anything is possible. Even the doomsday timelines that were not met, because some had said before 2015, 2020, yes, that we survived 2015 or survived 2020, 2023, and we did not get to the point of collapse doesn't mean that it cannot happen. So it's really incumbent on all who are in positions of not only authority, but also influence and leadership, organic leadership, which is why it's very important what people like Chivemeka Anyoku are doing. I mean, at his age, he's entitled to some rest, but it's legacy time for him. So it's incumbent on all those who are in positions of whether official authority or otherwise to take any step necessary to bring repair to our country. Because if that is not done, you never know. The thing about tipping points is that things build up over 10 years, over 100 years, whatever. It doesn't appear as if they want to collapse. But one small push and the collapse happens in a second. And I think we're at that point where if things are not properly managed, anything could go wrong. We hope that does not happen.
Amen. I say a big amen to that. So I want to talk about President Jonathan and the South now, but before I do that, let me ask you this. President Tinubu, with his pedigree, his past record, human rights activist, Nadeco, I mean, it was clear, fought Abacha, Alliance for Democracy, fought Obasanjo standstill, some say last man standing, when the PDP tsunami overcame the Southwest. Of course, his champion causes, the fuel subsidies strike in those days, and so on and so forth, And are you disappointed with him so far? And why am I asking, and where am I really going on this? I mean, with somebody that has that kind of past record, don't you think it should be the president championing, a constitutional cause, like the Patriot at the last conference? Don't you think it should be the one? Because he's always been an advocate of devolution of power. There's no hidden, now that he's in power. So the question really is, are you disappointed that he's not towing the line of his antecedent?
I will not use the word disappointed. Yeah, but easily any citizen, it doesn't have to be me, any citizen will be entitled to be surprised that with those antecedents, that from Nadeco through to when he became governor of Lagos State and how he battled the federal government at the time, poetic justice is now the one at the center, but he used some of these principles of social justice, constitutionalism, and so on to defend Lagos State, whether on the local government issue and so on, and so release of funds, allocation, and all of that, and many more, regional planning, and all of that. So you would expect, and then of course I mentioned just minutes ago how he was part of even the protests to ensure that power transited from President Yaradua to Jonathan. Yes. So you would expect. But in life, we've got to be careful, despite our justified emotions and passions. And I hold a lot of strong views. No apologies for that.
But I do too. I got my very strong. I don't pull punches too.
Yes. But in life, which politics is just a part of, we've got to be careful sometimes to not be too doctrinaire in our views. Because a lot of brinkmanship, and here I am giving the benefit of doubt to the president. A lot of brinkmanship is going to be involved in handling these issues, especially the issue of a new constitution for Nigeria. Sometimes, even though you are in the office of president, you want to be empowered by a groundswell of social agitation to do something.
I agree.
Imagine, I gave the example of the Yaradua scenario. David Mark was Senate president. Let's, again, hypothetically, let's give the benefit of doubt that maybe David Mark as Senate president wanted the vice president then to take over. But if he had done it immediately, it's possible that things may have gone wrong. But when there was that groundswell of social agitation, the National Assembly was empowered by the citizenry to take that step.
Doctrine of necessity then.
Of necessity, yes. It wasn't just a mechanical application. Yeah. So maybe President Tinubu is adopting that approach and waiting for that to happen, or he has another card up his sleeves, we don't know. But so far, we are entitled to express our surprise that he hasn't made a move along these lines. So here is an opportunity for him. That opportunity is there. Even on a global or international scale, you have people like Ayoku leading this process. So you have all the bona fides, you have all the alibi, whether locally or internationally, to say, well, it's because there was so much agitation, not just by ordinary people. Ordinary people are important, they're citizens, but this time, even though the everyday people of the country, this is what they are asking for, even the elites now see the urgency. There is a power, there's some power in that symbolism. And we're hoping that President Tinubu will take the opportunity. It's an opportunity for him. If he loses the opportunity, he will have to answer for that going forward. It's an opportunity that has been available for every president before him, and they failed. That's the simple truth. Every president before, this may sound a bit harsh, but every president before President Tinubu failed on this score. As long as you remain the president, whatever your antecedents, you still have the opportunity. And I'll close here with the example of Frederick de Klerk and Mandela.
Mandela, yeah.
Yes. Mandela was the good man, the freedom fighter and everything. De Klerk was the bad guy, all right? But whatever his sins were, there came a moment when he took that opportunity. And in the end, Mandela and de Klerk shared a Nobel Peace Prize. So whatever his antecedents, good or bad, if he misses this opportunity, people will not remember those positive antecedents. We will only classify him amongst his predecessors that failed on this score. But even if he had bad antecedents, which I'm not saying he had, and he seizes this opportunity, what Nigerians will remember him for, more than anything else, more than any rail track he lays, more than any seaport he builds, more than any airport, what Nigerians will remember him for will be this silver bullet that he decided to take up. Just the way that Nigerians do not remember any sins of President Goodluck Jonathan. Nobody's perfect. So as a human being, he made a few mistakes too. What Nigerians remember him for, more than anything else, more than the he built, more than whatever infrastructure he did, Almajiri schools and so on, what we remember him for more than anything else as a legacy is that he considered power. And I had the opportunity once of being in a group that went to see him. And this was how I described the moment. I said, it reminded me of what, I don't remember his name, the first man, Neil Armstrong, I think. Neil Armstrong, the landing on the moon. And how, when he made that first step, what he said was, this is a small step for man, but a giant leap for mankind. Yeah. So President Tinubu has an opportunity to take a small step that will be a giant leap for Nigeria.
Well, let me just add to that. I think, now I'm guessing, and this just based on my mere observation of the body language of the president, I do think that he has a joker up his sleeve on this constitutional issue. I don't know what it is. I don't know how he tends to go about it. And my reasons are not far-fetched. I think the likes of Professor Shoyinka, who are his supporters, have a reason why they are dying the whole supporters of him. I think they might know something. Like I said, I'm just guessing, I'm just a journalist observing the body language, just like I should be. I think that the likes of Shoyinka, they know that, this artificial concussion Nigeria has to be recalibrated, reorganized one way or the other. Now, will he do it? I don't know. Will he let the opportunity slip, like you said? I honestly don't know. But I think it will be a big folly on his part, actually, if he does it.
Absolutely.
It's legacy time in Nigeria. You understand? It's really legacy time. It's legacy time for free and fair election. It's legacy time for constitutional amendment. It's legacy. You understand? Yeah. Nigeria now is either you're poor or you're rich. You understand? So for the poor man, it's legacy time. For the wealthy, it's legacy time. So there's really no more time for circumnavigating. You understand? Push has come to shove.
Yeah.
But let's go to President Jonathan. It's almost like a 3-in-1, so that I don't keep going back and going back. With benefit of hindsight, okay, let me say this before I ask the question. In 2015, when he lost to Buhari, I supported him at that time, and I'll tell you my reason. Because Atlanta Discuss is a discussion, even though it's question and answer. We also sometimes, but I'm thinking for myself now. One reason I supported Jonathan at that time was because he was an Ijaw, which technically in Nigeria is a minority. Ijaws are not one of the tripods such Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani, and Igbo. So I felt, because I also wanted devolution of powers, I wanted, all those confederation, all those things we talk about, part of things the patriots have also been talking about. So my feeling then was that it's only somebody that is a minority who actually knows where it pinches that will be able to make those amendments. In fact, as a Yoruba, because I'm Yoruba, I fought my older boys association. We argued about it amongst my friends. They're like, how can you support this guy is corrupt? I said, don't forget about that. Everybody in Nigeria is corrupt. There's no one size fits all, that kind of thing. This guy, give him the second time. As Yorubas, that was my thought process at that time. Let's give this guy a second time. When he gets the second time, he doesn't owe anybody anything. As a matter of fact, I don't think he will leave presidency. I have the guts to go back to Tueke if he did not perform any constitutional amendment. That's my thought process. You understand that time? So I'm just saying this for perspective and all that. But my question is this: with benefit of hindsight, do you think that after President Jonathan took over from President Yar'Adua, he now won an election of a 4th term for himself?
Yeah.
And we all knew, okay, there was a gentleman's agreement that Obasanjo spoke about and all that. Do you think, with benefit of hindsight, he should not have run or took part in the 2015 election? That's number one. Number two is that there's a clamor now for him to run. Initially I thought it was a rumor, but I've heard people. I speak to a lot of people in Nigeria, and I don't think it's a rumor again. So the second question is: do you think he should run? You understand? Do you think he should run? And the major proponent of him running, the argument is that he can't run for more than 2 times. It's constitutionally bad. So for the Northerners, another opinion I hold fervently is that I think Northerners are actually better politicians than all of us in the South. People have disagreed, but I always explain to them they're a better bunch when it comes to this kind of thing. Now, they will, and I think they really want to support Jonathan because it's constitutionally bad, like Obiwu says, oh, I will perform, I will do 4 years, I'm a man of honor and go. But I've told people that if Obi comes and Obi just delivers, and I think he will deliver anyway, that if all Obi does is to reduce the cost of governance, which is something we need so badly, people will automatically say, go on, go on, go on, which is what I think the Northerners are worried about. Obi comes, does a good job. The people won't tell him to go now. And he's going to do a lot in agriculture in the North. He's been preaching it and all that. So Jonathan seems like a safe man. And they see the Baba doesn't like Koala, that kind of thing. So those are my two questions. Benefit of hindsight, should he have run in 2015? And right now, do you think he should take part in the present dispensation by competing for presidency?
Well, the first question is very simple. Should he have run in 2015? Yes.
Considering there was an agreement, yeah. All right, okay.
Well, whatever the agreement was, those people who went into an agreement, they're not the owners of Nigeria.
Oh.
They don't have the rights to stay in one coven or one cocoon and agree something and impose it on us. So Jonathan had every right and justification, moral justification, to run in 2015. Yeah. Now, how he performed, that's a different question. Yeah. And that should be a lesson for everyone, because if it was his performance that caused his defeat at the polls, then that may still be through a challenge, right? But as to whether he had a right and he should have run, yes, he should have run. Should he run in 2027? That's a lot trickier to answer, because we can do all the permutations and punditry, political punditry, and you've done some of it already. And I imagine that the specter of that may be what has put pressure on Obi. I didn't want to believe it the first few days. I haven't had time to really look at reports in detail, but if it is true that Obi has made an undertaking to run for only one term, maybe it is the specter of a Jonathan running that may have put pressure on him. So I don't have a clear yes or no answer on that, except to say that the answer is in the winds, and it's a good thing. It's actually a good thing that these scenarios are actually up on the radar. So it will put everyone, I hope, on their toes. Now, not just the key opposition figures or the key possible alternative candidates, but it should put even President Tinubu on his toes in terms of legacy issues. Because you're right, technically speaking, Jonathan can do only one term. So that's the major political reason why some blocks in the country may want him to come, especially from the northern part. But in addition to that technical point that is in his favor, is that moral record on his part that when push came to shove, that he did that most unlikely of things that a Nigerian, the typical Nigerian politician in that position would have done. That is what is speaking for him.
Absolutely.
It is not just that technical possibility of one term. It's also the fact that he did that. So the lesson from that is that even the incumbent should try and do those things which Nigerians, whether they are in Zungeru or they're in Kafanchan or in Nimbe or Aba, they will say, this man lifted himself above ethnic, political, and other considerations and decided to renew Nigeria. Because otherwise, it is only if he doesn't do some of those things that any other candidate will become attractive.
All right, let me ask you this. You know, when I started talking about President Jonathan, I started by talking about the tripods. That's Yoruba, Hausa, Fulani, and Igbo. That's one of the things that fascinated my mind was because he was a Jaw and was a minority. Now, do you think if Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was either Yoruba, Hausa Fulani, as they call it, and Hausa Fulani are different, or Igbo, do you think he will have lost the election?
Not likely.
Not likely.
Not likely. And I'm not trying to justify any ethnic considerations or what. I'm just being realistic.
Yeah. Right. That's why I asked too. These are things we at editorial, but we ponder a lot on, circumstances.
Because even the pressure on him, and we're saying Jonathan hypothetically here, whoever it was that was in that position, the level of pressure that will be on him from certain groups for him to insist on his position would have been stronger than whatever pressure he got. When I don't know if you get me.
Yeah, I understand.
And there would have been some pressure on him. So if you were a Northerner, for example, or if you were a Yoruba man,
yeah,
yes, His own people, we are Nigerians now, we know each other.
Yeah.
The level, the political
there's mutual respect amongst the top three. That's why sometimes you see there's hesitation about giving one of the three power for any reason whatsoever. Then the other two, though, I mean, look at June 12th. Abiola won. For some reason, they didn't give him. The country never knew peace. But when peace came, you know, they knew the Yorubas had to be compensated.
Yes.
Failure in which there won't be any movement forward.
Exactly.
Now, it was how onerous for them to think which Yoruba will not rock the boat. That is amenable to the Yorubas, that is amenable to them. Even the Yorubas did not vote for OBJ at that time.
Absolutely.
But it was still Yoruba, and I mean, you have to give it to him. That's why
it is real politic, you know.
Politic,
yes, and the lesson from that, this time, permit me to speak as an Ijoma.
Please go ahead.
The lesson for that.
That's the next set of questions.
For the minorities, you know, whether it's the Joe people, Niger Delta people, is that, you see, nobody came here to give you any quotas. You've got to build preparedness, not economic preparedness, political preparedness. Now that takes a lot. Sometimes fate may just throw fortune at, on your lap. But you've got to build preparedness and real resilience, power, such that, and the best example, and I won't dwell on that, is Israel. Israel is a small country.
Absolutely.
But you say because they're a small country, you know, but I mean, sometimes it's rationalized or analyzed in biblical terms. But beyond biblical terms or prophecies, Israel has done its homework. Absolutely. So nobody takes them for granted.
Absolutely.
There is a way you will do your homework, even with the few talents. That takes us to the parable of the talents in the Bible. You know, even with the few talents you've been given, you may have been denied 87% of what you're supposed to have. But the 10% or 13% or whatever, there's a way you will use it, not just economically, but all around, politically, otherwise, that people will think twice, even if they are 10 times more popular than you. I know. They will think twice.
There's deterrence. There's deterrence. Yeah. We're short for time, but I cannot let you go without asking you this. This is another 2-in-1. So we're talking Rivers and Bayelsa now. You know, the state of emergency was declared in Rivers. I want to know what your opinion on that is. I mean, everybody has said it's illegal. The case is in court. The Supreme Court has refused to adjudicate. Rivers State Administrator Ibas, whatever, I can't remember his full name, is planning to organize a local government election. So quickly, do you think the state of emergency was unconstitutional? Do you think the governor has the constitutional right to organize a local government election? That's 1A, 1B, and probably 1C. Now, question 2 is this. I'm going to your state now, Bayelsa. Now, there's been rumors. Everybody now is in the APC. You know, we only have Abia, Bayelsa, I don't know, I think, and Oshun, you understand? So I'm possibly Oyo, you know, but now I'm talking South-South. So if you look at South-South, Edo is it's APC, Delta is APC, Rivers is technically APC, Cross River and Akwa Ibom too. So only Rivers. So is your governor, Governor Diri, is he also going to APC? You have the floor. If you can do it in 3 minutes, I'll really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Yes, thankfully the time is short, so I don't need to go into.
I don't mind. I mean, it's good.
On the state of emergency in Rivers State, it's I don't just think. I know it's unconstitutional. It's clearly unconstitutional. Leave all the drama. It's unconstitutional. And I'll find a way to link that with the Bayelsa question.
Fantastic.
The Bayelsa, my governor, is he likely to go to APC?
I'm sure he's under pressure. I don't need to be told that.
The rumors are all over, you know. But at the end of the day, there is a hierarchy of, if you like, prerogatives, so want of a better term.
Okay, fair
at the first level, not necessarily the superior level, but at the primary level, it is his prerogative to decide whether to move or not. That is, if at all he is even considering, because we must give him the benefit of doubt. He hasn't come back to say anything.
Absolutely.
So we have to assume that he remains in PDP.
It's hard to be the last man standing.
It's not easy. So also give him credit for that, because he could easily have moved before now if he wanted to. So for him to still be there, it means that there's an assumption that he's in PDP, he wants to stay in PDP. However, if he decides in the end to move, well, first of all, it's his personal prerogative. However, there is another prerogative because it doesn't lie with him. The Bayelsa people, in light of what is going on, all factors considered, which I don't need to analyze or break down here, the Bayelsa people have to decide and express their will, find a way to express their will, and nobody has a right to decide for them. There is a way the Bayelsa people will lawfully express their will. It will be so loud that Governor Diri will have no choice than to align with the will of the people. But, and this is a lesson all through time, all through history, of politics and whatever else. If you decide to be quiet, if the people decide to be quiet, silence is consent. Therefore, whatever he does, it will be taken that, well, the people are quiet, the signs were all there, but the people didn't do anything, so I've moved. Wow. So in the end, just like the Yaradua power vacuum situation, I will say that, and that's why I said I'll try to link both the rivers and because in the Rivers situation, yes, there were a few protests, there are some lawsuits and so on, but at the end of the day, there wasn't a robust enough expression of the will of the Rivers people. So we must, you see, we don't like to face truth sometimes. There wasn't a robust enough expression of the will of the people, and that is why it was possible to impose that illegality and unconstitutionality on the Rivers people. Likewise, in Bayelsa, it will not be unconstitutional, it will not be illegal for the governor to move if he decides to move. But if his people who put him there feel that, look, we've been hearing these rumors, we are happy that you should go, in fact, we want you to go, then it will be in line with the will of the people that he moves to APC. But if the overwhelming majority of the people feel that that would be a wrong move, they should find a way to express, or we as a people should find a way to express that will in such a way that Governor Diri cannot ignore it. But that is the real test of politics. But the mistake we have made in Nigeria is that we have considered politics to a handful of people who call themselves politicians. Wow. We have decided not to be active citizens. Politics is an all-encompassing, it's a game for all of us, all citizens. And there are moments that demand that the citizens must express their will.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Iniuro Wills. I got it right this time. Yeah. Like they say, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, voice of people, voice of God. We've said it here so many times, and I'm a strong advocate of let the people's will count. I believe in free and fair election. I really don't care who rules. You understand? I'm not an advocate of federal character. As a matter of fact, I believe that if the 10 best, if we're looking for 10 best Nigerians to do anything, and at that point, the 10 best are from Katsina, so be it. Let's use those 10, I mean, right now we're seeing Nigerians from the north getting prizes in English all over the world. I have a program we do every Wednesday. We call it Startup and Innovators. My last 3 guests were based in Jos, and one was from Bauchi, one was from Adamawa. There's a guy now in Arizona, Ambima Bujaisin. He has like 9, 10, 12 patents. He's doing fantastically well. So every region has asset. Every region has brilliant people. You understand? And nobody has a monopoly of anything anymore, actually. So Mr. Wills, thank you so much. You've spoken very well. I personally am impressed. I'm going to bring you back. There's so many things we could not touch. Just like I told Madam Briggs, I want to talk more about injunction, environmental degradation, etc., etc. We have to.
On that one, please allow me to smuggle in one line, which is that.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't have a choice.
Mr. President also has an opportunity to do what all his predecessors so far have failed to do, which is clean up the Niger Delta environment.
All right.
Otherwise, it will be a burden, a huge moral burden on him.
Thank you, Mr. Wills. So it's a wrap there to all the people in the 7 continents: Antarctica, Asia, Africa, Europe, North America, South America, continent of Australia. Some people call you Oceania. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for your continuous subscription. I read your mails. Yeah, atlantadiscuss@gmail.com. Keep it coming. I always respond to your need. These are last in the series of the Patriot and the last constitutional conference. So I won't call it constitutional conference, but the last conference organized by Patriot that had a lot of representation, professional bodies, ethnic nationalities. And the resolve is clear. We need to talk. We need to create that political resolve as Nigerians to judge. Yeah, the nation clearly battered, almost beyond repairs. Yes, it has not collapsed, it has not failed, but it's not looking good too. So we need to save it. The largest concentration of Black people on the face of the earth. It's not, we can do better than that, I can tell you. So thank you, sir, once again for coming.
Thank you.
It's a wrap. Bye.
Thank you.